Hello, my name is Chrissy Hodges, OCD, pure OCD in particular advocate. I'm a peer support specialist and I work worldwide, specifically with people with OCD, to help support and normalize the symptoms and the emotional turmoil we go through with it. And I'm also an OCD referral consultant, so I can help connect you to therapists that can help, whether that's in your area or those that can treat across state or country lines. For more information about my services and pricing or to schedule, go to chrissyhodges.com. I'm also the author of Pure OCD, The Invisible Side of Obsessive Compulsive Disorder. And if you've watched my videos enough, you're probably wondering why Banana is over here. We actually are moving, so my apologies, my house feels like a wreck right now. I don't know if you can see it, but there's like tape back there and everything else. And I definitely wanted to get in one last video here at this house before we move. Don't worry, Banana is going with me. So next video I do, it will be strategically placed on a wall behind me. But this is the last video I will do in this place, and I will definitely miss the ambiance, but moving on to greater things, and I'm really excited. So today I wanted to talk about, I like to come on and talk about different themes that we experience with OCD. However, it's always important to remember that OCD is OCD. The themes don't matter. Treatment works no matter what you're dealing with, and it should be treated the same. Themes don't make something easier or more difficult to treat. But it is nice to be able to, especially if you've just found out that you may be living with OCD, to find out a little more information about symptoms. It helps so much to know that you're not alone, especially kind of in the description of the symptoms. And it also helps to know there are other people out there, so you don't feel that isolation by not only the symptoms, but the shame and the fear and the guilt and everything that goes along with it. I do want to point out though that oftentimes people will come to the video looking for reassurance. And so if you are here for reassurance, do want you to know that it's probably not going to help you. You're not going to know any more or any less when you get done whether or not you do or you don't have OCD, or whether your theme is real or not. So you may want to check that right now and say, do I really want to keep watching, because this isn't going to make me feel better. But glad to have you here if you are looking for more information about the theme that we like to call trans OCD. So this I've seen a lot in working with people worldwide over the last year and a half. As you can see in the media, there's a lot more attention placed on the acceptance and non-discrimination for people who are experiencing gender dysphoria and trying to figure out their gender and their identity, and then the result of that being you may or may not be transgender. I also want to point out that having this theme and having this sphere is in no way translated to be transphobic. So the same way that if someone has homosexual themed OCD, which is super common, that is no way translates into I am homophobic and I hate gay people and I think it's wrong. That is not what it is. OCD can latch onto anything that can give you doubt. I just saw my cat Barney walk by, and if OCD wanted, it can latch on and make me believe I wanted to sexually assault him, which I don't, but I love animals and I would never hurt them. But, OCD will plant a seed into anything and everything that causes doubt. So this is, of course, going to be an easy theme to latch on. And oftentimes they go hand in hand, the trans with the homosexual themed OCD, which can go into relationship themed OCD. But again, OCD is OCD, so it does not matter what the theme is. All can be treated, and you can live a normal life and manage this. So let's get into some of the symptoms that people experience when they're living with this. There's no one way that this can start. A lot of times I'm just going to give examples here. So again, on the reassurance piece, if you're coming into this video going, if she says all of the symptoms and if she doesn't list a couple of mine, then I must not have OCD. Or if I do list the symptoms and you don't have that, and oh my gosh, that must mean I have OCD. Again, looking for reassurance is bad. So just take it for what it is. I'm basing this loosely off of what I have heard from clients that I've worked with that have the trans theme for OCD. I have personally have never experienced this. It did, I think, it inadvertently hit me when I was dealing with HOCD back in the day. But, we didn't hear a lot back in the 90s about transgender and gender dysphoria. I don't even know if that was a term then. And I could very well be outdating myself or looking like an idiot by just saying that. I mean, seriously. But you hear it so much now. And back then, I would have had no clue what it was. But in living with HOCD, I do remember feeling things such as, or comparing myself to, oh my gosh, I used to be a tomboy when I was a little kid. And even though I love Barbies, I also loved equally being outside. I didn't care about getting dirty. I was, I'd never liked dressing up when I was a little kid I wasn't a girly girl. So maybe that means I'm really a man, or, there's a man inside of me and I really don't have HOCD and I really just want to be with women because I'm a. So those thoughts got intertwined, but again, nothing ever superseded HOCD for me. That was definitely the strongest one that I had. So, but some of the things that I hear people saying, definitely an example would be, you're watching a movie or you're watching a show or even a documentary or something, and someone talks about how when they realized they were transgender, and they may be talking about their experience, or you're watching something and a character is transgender, and then you get the surge of, what if I am? Well, how do I know if I am or not? And then all of a sudden, of course, as we all know, we become hyper-focused on, well, I need to answer this question right now. And there's an urgency of, am I not? Why would I think that if I'm not? I mean, what kind of person just has this thought and then your feelings attach of, well, why wouldn't I know this? And oh my gosh, I'm so sad because, I really love being a woman, but now I do have to be a man. So this is an example of how it can happen. However, all of our stories are different. But when it does show up and becomes a heightened trigger, some of the things that you may be dealing with is, and I can cite an example of a client that I have worked with before, and he was working towards getting through HOCD and told me, he says, I just woke up one morning and all of a sudden my brain said, you're a woman. You're a woman. You're a woman. And it's not funny because of him. We were both dying laughing. But it was just like this, all of a sudden woke up and all, like that would be like me waking up and being like, you're a man, you're a man. And so, I have heard repeated people tell me that all of a sudden they'll get this dialogue in their head of like, your brain yelling at you that you're the opposite sex. So like, I wake up and it's just, Chris, you're a man, you're a man, you're a man. And it's hard to ignore that, right? So you're sitting there going, oh my God, how do I argue with my brain if it's just screaming at me that now I'm a different sex? So, that's one example. And oftentimes we live with what we can sometimes describe as like a voice in our head, but, don't read too much into that. It certainly isn't, in a psychosis way, but just more of, we feel like there's this voice in our head feeding us stuff. And it's hard, and a lot of that is because it's ego dystonic. And so you're trying to argue back with your own brain, and so then you just feel nuts. You're like, but I know this isn't right, but why would it say this? Meaning kind of that second voice, that second self that comes in that we continue to argue with. So having kind of those phrases repeated over and over in our head, and then it's the, oh my God, what if this never stops? That can lead you down a whole other rabbit hole. But that isn't uncommon. And typically people will describe it as a second voice or a second self. So, of course, there's going to be the analyzation. What is that a word? Analysis. I'll say analysis because I know that is a word. Analysis. I'm so embarrassed. Analysis of your body parts. So, this is the big one. So that would be, so I'm a woman. So if I were to be experiencing this and I all of a sudden started analyzing things, I would go, well, why is my voice so low? I mean, shouldn't I, look, it even got low when I said that. Shouldn't it be higher? So what if I really do have testosterone, or what if my voice gets lower? What if I really am a man? Or, and then I'd be like, oh my gosh, it looks like I have an Adam's apple. Oh, and sorry about my fingernails, by the way. I just noticed that they peeled off. I just haven't had time to go do them. So I'm sorry. I just look so discombobulated. Speaking of, like, whether or not I'm a woman, like, I can't even keep my nails done. Oh my God. So anyway, another thing maybe that I would do would be to analyze, you know, I'm a super tall girl. You may not know this, but I'm about 5'10". And so I have always felt like kind of that big girl. I'm very tall, and I always wear, you know, really tall heels. So sometimes I'm towering over people. And so it could feel like, oh my God, but I'm so tall. I'm kind of like an Amazon. Do I look manly? So I'm looking at my shoulders. Are my shoulders big? You know, are my muscles, you know, really big? So it looks like I'm on steroids or something. And, you know, for men, it's going to be analyzing their voice again. Is my voice too high? It should be low. Manly men have lower voices. Or, you know, again, looking at, are my legs feminine? Are they too skinny? Or, you know, are my facial features feminine? You know, do I have a strong chin, or do I have high cheekbones? And because that's what women want, I guess, or whatever. So even analyzing any of your body parts, analyzing things to try to prove that this may mean you really are a man or a woman. That's such a huge one, especially the voice thing and the activities. So men will often say, well, I really like to dress nice. So, but does that mean that I'm really manly? And then women may be like, I don't like to dress up. I don't like dressing in girly stuff. I like to dress down. So that must mean I really am a man. Or if women like sports, they may be like, oh my gosh, I must be really a man. Or if a man likes, you know, I don't know, dancing, or not that that's girly, but I'm getting into too much now. But whatever you would perceive to be girly or masculine, you know, feminine or masculine. And it doesn't matter, because regardless of whether you think it is, OCD gonna find a way to make you think it is. So overanalyzing everything about your life, trying to find the answer, am I really the sex that I'm presenting to the outside world? Oh, and of course, reading trans stories. So this is looking for reassurance. So going to look at people's lived experience, reading articles, watching videos like this one, doing all of these things in an effort to find some sort of distinction. You're looking at a story of lived experience for someone that's transgender, going, oh, well, look, they felt like that and I didn't. But it's never going to pay off, because I'm going to tell you the big, you know, poke for you is going to be the people who experience transgender often experience a ton of anxiety. The same way people who are homosexual, they experience that anxiety, and you are inevitably going to read that. No matter how much proof you find, you're going to read that and you're going to go, my gosh, I have anxiety, so this must be the beginning stages. And I'm just like them, and at some point I'm just going to have to accept it. Yeah, and then your head catches on fire and you can't even manage. So that is a dangerous thing. Reading lived experience of individuals, going on forums for people who are transgender, just get out of there. Seriously. And they don't want you there either. They're probably like, here's somebody else with OCD. So it's just not helpful. For every 10 posts you're going to see, there's going to be one that's going to send your entire month down the drain. You know I'm right too. So I get it. I know why we want to do it, but trust me, the benefits don't pay off. You know, lots of people wants to eat a gallon of ice cream per day, you know, or a 24 pack of beer per day, but the benefits don't pay off. So just think about it that way. Okay. So another big one, I just have some notes written down here so I don't forget anything. So fearing that you will be attracted to somebody and then find out that they are either trans or the opposite sex. So then that reflects on other people. So then all of a sudden it may come off of you, and then worry, is my partner transgender? You know, are they really a male or a female? Or have they, you know, had surgery, and did they used to be the opposite sex? So things like that can really spiral out. And so oftentimes, you know, you'll be out and you see somebody and you think, oh, they're really attractive or whatever. And then, you know, maybe you get closer, and if you're dealing with this fear, you think, oh my gosh, well, they, you know, if you're a male, that person just has a very strong jawline. What if it's really a male and not a female? And oh my gosh, but I was attracted first. So does that mean that I really was attracted to him? If it's a him, if it's not, and then you're like, I'm not even gonna go talk to them because I'm too scared to find out. So it is like analyzing also other people, and then like getting into that confusing state of are they or aren't they? That can really throw things off too. What if I like for men, like, then they'll all of a sudden start analyzing, well, I have this pink shirt and it's been my favorite, so what does that mean? And like, you know, like women analyzing the same thing. This just goes back to, you know, looking for things on your body or looking for activities, but just anything, you're all of a sudden really black and white separating masculine and feminine, and seeing anything that you have that's going to fit in that category, that's going to try to lead you to the proof and disproof, which we all know there is no proof and disproof no matter how much we look. Those are the compulsions that keep us stuck. So, and then lastly, yes. And so then there's the, you know, watching porn and, watching trans porn, things like that. Watching porns with transgender people, trying to see and check and recheck. And am I getting the groinal syndrome? Am I not? Am I liking this? Am I feeling disgust? And then, but as most of us know, the more we check and check and check and check, and we think as long as I'm getting that feeling of disgust, not disgust at being transgender, but the disgust at, okay, if I have a disgust feeling, that means that I'm not attracted to this and I don't like it. But as we know, the more checking and checking and rechecking and rechecking, we eventually will lose that disgust feeling. And we will eventually go, oh my gosh, I don't have the disgust feeling anymore. Does that mean I'm finally learning to accept this? So again, looking to things like porn, looking, you know, at forums and reading stories and just looking at people who are transgender and just trying to gauge our reaction. This is all compulsive. It's all leading us down the road that we don't want to go down, which is not having an answer and then being terribly frightened at the end that must mean that there is a reason. So lastly, I want to say that was Hamilton, if you heard that. He just snorted. It's like zombie apocalypse in here today. His tongue, by the way, is sticking out like this far. I wish I could turn the camera, but I don't want you to see all the boxes. I think the biggest thing and the hardest part about this theme that I've heard and seen is that what happens is people, and I think this happens for all themes, so I'm not just isolating this one theme, but just feeling really disconnected from who you are with this theme, because yes, you hear all these kinds of stories for people who are actually transgender and the isolation and loneliness they feel growing up, and how they knew that they weren't who they were in their own bodies as they grow up. And then, you know, coming to this realization that this isn't who they are, and they are experiencing gender dysphoria. And what happens is that we can latch onto that and then feel a serious disconnect with ourselves, and then worry that is the reason why, because we just know that we're somebody that we're not inside. But I do want to kind of segue that into, this is not just about this theme. This is about all themes of OCD. If I hear anything over and over and over, you know, and I felt it myself, it really is this: I don't know who I am anymore. I feel like I've lost who I was. And for people that are worried about the trans theme, oh my, this really can dig deep into it, because then it's this frightening and terrifying, oh my gosh, then I really am identifying with someone who is transgender, because this is exactly how I feel. So I'm not telling you that for reassurance, but I'm telling you that because I know how hard it is, and how scary and conflicting that would feel. And also just want you to know that you're not alone. I've heard that from so many people that are dealing with this theme, but I also hear it and have felt it in my own experience, and just from so many other people. This is a cruel disorder. This is a tormenting, twisted, unfair torture chamber. I think I said that in my last video. And it really does make us feel like we are floating and lost in the world, and that we have disconnected from that person that we used to be, or that person we could have been, the person that we want to be, but can't get back there. Oftentimes, I always call it the OCD wall, the wall of OCD. We always just look over the wall and go, my whole life is out there. If I could only jump over this wall, and it's whatever obsession is in our way. I'm going to tell you, you are there, and you can step over the wall, but you have to do it with the right treatment, and you have to do it with a professional, whether that be medication or therapy. Take action. I know that it's really easy to go, yeah, but I might wake up tomorrow and feel better. Or maybe OCD is ebbing and flowing. So you were suffering really bad, and now all of a sudden it's coming back, and you're thinking, no, it'll go away soon. Listen to me. OCD does not go away on its own. It doesn't. So if you're thinking that, you are incorrect and inadvertently suffering for no reason. If, help is imperative. It's beneficial. It can help you get a life back that you want and that you desire, and it can help connect you back to who you are in here, without it just causing this, crazy chaos for you to disconnect, from everything that you used to know. I say that in quotes because we are forever changed by OCD. We are. Because OCD is traumatic. And so trauma changes our brains. But we aren't disconnected from our character and from who we are as individuals, and our ability to love and accept love, and especially to love ourselves. Because it is hard to love ourselves with OCD, but it is possible. And the first step is getting treatment. Treatment for OCD is exposure response prevention therapy. It's part of cognitive behavioral therapy, but you have to have ERP. Acceptance commitment therapy also works in combination with exposure response prevention therapy. If you're working with a therapist and they're not using these techniques, they cannot help you. They will say that they can help you, but they can't. So there are a couple workbooks out there that may benefit you if therapy isn't right there and accessible for you right now. It's Freedom from Obsessive Compulsive Disorder by Jonathan Grayson, Getting Over OCD by Jonathan Abramowitz, and the Mindfulness Workbook by John Hirschfield. If you want your family to understand a little bit more about what you're going through, check out When a Family Member Has OCD by John Hirschfield. And also some great resources are intrusivethoughts.org, theocdstories.com, and ocdbaltimore.com. If you're looking for a consultation, so I can help point you in direction and give you several names of therapists that can help, go to my website at chrissyhodges.com. I can also do peer support, which can really help with the emotional turmoil that you struggle with when it comes to OCD. I know peer support helped me immensely. It changed my whole life. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope that this explains what the trans theme of OCD is. I'm sure I left a bunch of stuff out, but just so you know, I wanted you to know you're not alone. But again, this is not just a theme that's different than any else. It is all OCD. OCD can be treated. You can learn to manage this and live a normal life every single day, whether OCD shows up or not. You can know how to battle it, overcome it, and be all right. So thanks for being here, and I look forward to seeing you next time in my new house. The banana will be on the wall when you see it next. Bye.